Hello, everyone. This is Tyler Woods, and I'm reading for you my book, 11th Hour Preparedness, Making Choices While We Can't. I hope you're doing well in this time of this difficult time of quarantine. It seems like the whole world is in quarantine, and I hope this book reading will be a help, give you something to look forward to perhaps every day. And I am beginning on page 37. This is our third read. And the title of this section is called The System. The system refers to our current infrastructure of information, power, and supply. Information is accomplished by phone, television, radio, and the internet. Food is supplied by local grocery stores. Power is distributed from a massive system called an electric grid. Fresh water is piped to our homes, and sewage is piped away. Even our garbage is picked up regularly. Most system failures last only days to perhaps a few weeks, but there are scenarios present which would take down the system for a long time and require at least 6 to 12 months food supply for families who will be completely on their own. The 6-month supply applies only to those situations where the infrastructure can be restored. For those conditions where the system cannot be regained, and there are many, a 3-year supply is better advised to hold you until resources from your own garden, hunting, and fishing become sufficient to supply all food requirements. Transitioning to self-reliance is not without difficulties and expected failures. How fragile is the system? Take a close look at your grocery store. Massive amounts of almost any kind of food, right? Where did it come from? Few items in our stores come from less than hundreds of miles away, some from much further. Even fresh bread, though baked locally, requires basic ingredients that are shipped in. Everything comes by truck. Since the efficiency movement found ways to avoid tax on inventoried products, stores don't store things like they used to. Computerized checkouts scan items and build inventory orders to the system for restock. National food warehouses, less than a dozen across the country, put together a distribution system that assures you will find cans of peas and corn on the shelf at all times, just in time, unless something out of the ordinary happens. Just as local interruptions can bring down food distribution, our electric system, called a grid, can fail and accomplish the same. The worst electrical failure mode is called collapse, because the electric grids across our nation are linked, and when one fails, the rest can go down with it. A problem is the vast majority of our electric producing plants cannot do what is called cold start. That means they are designed to interface and align with an energized and working electric presence on the grid. If the grid is not operational, 0 volts, the interfacing equipment would not be able to bring up power because it would have no point of reference. The Department of Energy has stated that it could take as long as 3 years to restore power to America if the grid were to completely shut down. Recent correction by the Department of Energy now extends restoration of total grid failure from 4 years to 7. Napoleon learned what every military commander now knows. First, long supply lines are fragile, can be easily disrupted, and second, the lack of supply will defeat an army faster than any other enemy. Fragile supply lines that cannot respond to sudden changes in demand explains why store shelves empty in the path of storms and why gasoline is unavailable when the masses try to leave town at the same time. Power grids depend on large numbers of workers to keep them operating, as do our water and sewer systems. Anything that disrupts these systems or the availability of support workers can bring the systems down and leave stranded those who depend on them. Domestic terrorism only has to disrupt our supply for a little more than 2 weeks before anarchy tears society apart from the inside. Almost any major event can trigger street violence. smash and grab looting, and social mayhem. Our police and National Guard are not sufficiently manned to address lawlessness on a grand scale. If one city gets out of hand, neighboring cities lend police resources to assist. When a larger area needs assistance, the National Guard is called. Where would the resources come if every city needed assistance? We don't have the resource to restore law and order on a grand scale. As stated in the History Channel documentary drama After Armageddon, America is only about 9 meals away from anarchy. None of the pieces of the system can stand independently. Everything depends on electricity, fuel, the internet, computing, and armies of people to keep them running. If one piece of the system goes down, it can take the entire house of cards with it. This book is not intended to present the case for America's frailty, but for those who recognize that it exists, I hope to assist them in becoming better prepared. By current indications, there may not be much time, and preparation needs to start now. If money is no concern, various survival product websites enable credit card holders to spend their way to a level of preparedness. Credit card preparedness will get you inches into preparedness and miles into debt. If you're like the rest of us, you can use good advice from those with experience to help in making the best of limited resources. Preparedness doesn't have to empty a retirement account. Preparedness also includes more than can be purchased with a credit card. The importance of learning basic skills cannot be overstated. Our grandparents knew how to live without our massive infrastructure, but we've grown so dependent on its convenience that we've forgotten most of their ways. Here's a quote: "A problem with preparedness is that it has to be done while things are calm and times are good." Page 41. Start a notebook. Preparing for an extended period of life without services is frustrated by the fact that we've become so dependent and comfortable letting others accomplish our work for us. We expect the lights to turn on with the flip of a switch, water to flow by the turn of a handle, heat and AC to emerge because a thermostat was set, and the garbage to disappear because we set the can on the curb. Laundry is cleaned by putting dirty clothes in a machine, adding a little detergent, turning the machine on, coming back later. When we come back, the wash is ready for the dryer. We live in a push-button world, and we like it. What happens when it all stops? When power no longer comes to your house? Water no longer flows. The heat and AC won't come out of those floor vents. How will you get on with life? There are many areas of preparedness, and a good way to structure your plan is to keep a notebook with divisions for each area. Everyone's plan will be uniquely tailored to their individual conditions. A notebook will help keep things organized. A notebook becomes the source book for resources and management tool for maintaining order. It also keeps record of projects we've started but need more work. What's your plan? A preparedness plan will depend on location. If a home is in or very near a major metropolitan area, remaining there would be a mistake. And by the time that error is realized, it may be too late to correct. Evaluate your current home for several things. Can you continue living there without utilities? If the sewer system depends on electricity, all municipal systems are energy dependent. It will fail and may back up into the house. If you do not have a natural water source, a well, a spring, or freshwater stream, it will fail after the power grid goes down. It all comes down to this: the city will be no place to live after the systems fail. Large number of city dwellers will create a mass exodus after a few weeks of an outage. Gridlock will cause chaos on major roadways, and fuel supplies will be exhausted. With removal of social controls, police and National Guard, criminal elements will be unbridled. Looting and highway holdups will make travel extremely dangerous. If you live in a major city, preparation needs to focus on locating a safe place to go, stocking supplies at that location, and keeping packed bug-out bags with more than enough food, water, and essentials to get to that place. Prepare easily carried containers that can be quickly loaded into your vehicle, and don't forget more than enough fuel to get there. Among the bug out bags should be fully contained backpacks for each person, as it may become necessary to abandon a vehicle and continue on foot. Part of the plan needs to establish exactly what will trigger a decision to bug out. Denial will be the worst enemy. Lingering under a false hope of everything returning to normal could become a fatal mistake. Returning is always an option if systems normalize, but leaving may not be safe or even possible once things get bad. If you live near a major city, you're not in much better shape than living within that city. As food and water are exhausted, desperate individuals and groups of desperate individuals will be spiraling out along major corridors in search of essentials. Predators will patrol major roads as they systematically loot homes of food, water, and valuables. Living on the outskirts of metropolitan areas may be more dangerous because of a false sense of security. Reason to leave will not become apparent until the hope of safe travel is past. Do not overestimate how secure a location is. Living within 20 miles of an urban area or along a major highway is not a good location. It would be wise to find a safe retreat and get there early. If you live in the country, it's a better location as long as the home is at least 20 miles away from an urban area and 50 miles away from a large metropolitan area. The size of the nearest city matters. Large cities have established criminal elements already, and they will become organized looters of the surrounding countryside. It is best to be well away from major highways, as these will be natural pathways for looters fleeing the city when it becomes uninhabitable. A home that is 50 miles from a metropolitan area the size of Dallas, Texas, isn't very safe if it's just off the interstate highway. However, another home only 20 miles from town may be more safe if getting there requires travel over 15 miles of country and unimproved road to get there. Criminals are lazy and will take the easy path. The most secure place would be in the country, where trying to tell someone how to get there is next to impossible. Having a retreat that is not continually inhabited, such as a deer lease cabin, it's good, but be prepared to find armed squatters enjoying your provisions because no one was there to maintain a presence. There will be no police to call, and in a worst case scenario, there will be no police to call in a worst case scenario. A good plan when maintaining a remote safe house is to conceal provisions so they will not be easily found by others. Burying caches of supplies around the property and out of direct sight of the house will conceal them and allow you to access them if the retreat home were occupied by others. Large ice chests make good caches, and with duct tape covering the seal, they will keep supplies safe and dry. Other good cache containers are 5-gallon food-grade buckets with sealable lids. These can hold up to 50 pounds of supplies and are watertight. Please remember that during times of law and order, you are responsible for any harm that comes from the unintentional discovery and misuse of firearms and ammunition that are not securely stored. When caching weapons or ammunition, it would be wise to store them in separate locations. Be sure to have a good map to locate the caches when needed. Good, better, best. A preparedness plan may not be perfect, but it should improve your situation. Those who live in the city are not in a good place and need a plan to get out. Moving to a place of refuge is imperative, and it needs to be located and secured while things are still good. A vehicle that is rugged enough to drive to that place and enough fuel to get there without refueling is necessary. A 6-month supply of provision at that retreat location is a good start. A 12-month supply is better. That plan moves you from a bad place to a good place. If you do not live near a metropolitan area but are near major highways, consider a plan to locate a better retreat in a more isolated area. If you can afford the lifestyle, it would be best to live year-round at an isolated retreat near a remote country town where there is a community already practicing the skills of independent living. No matter where you are in preparedness, excuse me, your plan should be designed to improve your situation. Lists. A preparedness blog that I was reading contained a reader-submitted list of must-have tools for life without infrastructure. The list was so extensive that you would need a semi-truck and trailer to haul it. I could tell by the contents that the author must have been versed in construction, logging, and basic cabinet making, but I also noticed that he had completely neglected other areas necessary for shearing sheep, spinning yarn, weaving fabric, sewing, and the manufacturing of clay into useful containers and tableware. Each of us has personal talents and skill that will benefit a cooperative group. Other people's lists may help us modify our own list of perhaps what is important to realize that your list is personal. I'm sorry, let me back up and read that again. Other people's lists may help us modify our own list of preps, but it is important to realize that your list is personal to the gifts and skills that identifies you. A blacksmith may not have the same list as a farmer, and that's okay. We may discover that the most valuable members are those who bring what we forgot. A preparedness plan may not be perfect, but it should improve your situation. Well, that's it for today. We're up to page 47. And tomorrow, this is a larger chapter, so tomorrow will be a bit longer. But I hope you're enjoying this. Leave a comment. Love to hear from you. God bless you all.